Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode one of Mindful Money with Max Matles. My name is Max Matles, and I'm excited to be here with you today. This is going to be episode one, and I could think of no better place than at the top of a mountain at 10,000 feet to share a little bit more about money, meaning, purpose, and some insights that I've had into life that I'd like to share with the world. Now, normally I've been a pretty private person in my life, but I've come to the point where I feel like there's things I've learned and understood that I'd like to share with the world. And to start out, I don't think that any of these insights are my own. I just want to give a lot of gratitude for all the people that have taught me throughout the years and showed me what true understanding, wisdom, peace, courage, and positive qualities are, because I've had so many teachers, I've had so many friends, so many peers, and really at the end of the day, I stand on top of the shoulders of giants. So if you get any benefit from this video or videos in the future, just know that it's not my own. It's something greater that's had the opportunity to come through me. And for that, I'm really grateful. So today is going to be episode one, and I'm going to be interviewing myself here. I'm going to be giving a little bit of background on who I am, what my life's purpose feels like, what some of my passions are, what I do for work, and what are my life's goals. So just jumping into it, the format for the future is going to be interviewing other people, but since today is the first day, I'd like to give you a little bit more background on who I am. So let's jump right in. Growing up, I grew up in Orange County, California, somewhat near Los Angeles, and I was born to my mom, Holly, and my father, David. My mom being an elementary school teacher, and my father working in personal finance. I was really blessed that my mother taught me a lot about reading and writing when I was growing up, and so that's blossomed into me becoming an author and really feeling that I can share with the world in the form of written format. Growing up, I had a very ideal childhood, and I often take that for granted. Not everybody has had that same opportunity, and I know for that I should be really grateful, so I try to be as much as possible. I played a lot of sports growing up, like baseball, soccer, things like that. And I had a very rebellious spirit, so I got into things like skateboarding, but then eventually fell in love with rock climbing. And rock climbing has been one of my major life's passions, and it's taken me to beautiful places like what you can see here, to the tops of mountains. Eventually, that rebelliousness led me outdoors and seeking new adventures, and exploration of consciousness was always at the forefront of my mind. And so I've done a lot of work with mindfulness, meditation, exploring consciousness in all sorts of different formats, mind expanding substances, things of that nature, and I've tried it all. I've had a lot of insights into that, and I think the biggest thing that they've shown me is that at the end of the day, the work has to be done by yourself. And so anything outside of yourself is really just a tool to point you back inwards to what truly matters. I got it very into rock climbing. I got very into highlining, so walking on tight ropes, thousands of feet high. I've done a lot of extreme sports, and through extreme sports was a way that I was able to explore consciousness, explore what it means to be human, pushing my body to extreme limits and my mind physically and mentally through walking on tight ropes, thousands of feet in the air, climbing thousands of feet up rocks without ropes. And yes, I've done that. I've free soloed a lot in the past. I don't do that anymore. I don't necessarily see the merit in it anymore. I've definitely had close calls, and it taught me to respect human life. And some people might think, oh, if you've had a lot of brushes with death, that you might have insights into something greater, some greater piece of wisdom. But in my experience, it just showed me how precious life is and how it should be taken very seriously. So I've done a lot of climbing, things like El Cap. I climbed El Capitan first try when I was 22 years old in about 14 hours. I climbed Half Dome, I did that in under a day too. I have a few interesting achievements under my belt in the realm of rock climbing, in the realm of highlining, extreme sports. I've run ultra marathons up to 50 miles. I'd like to do another ultra marathon at some point. The most impactful thing that happened in my life was I was on a rock climbing trip once, and I would wake up in the morning and I would sit up in my sleeping bag, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was practicing meditation. I would sit up and I would be with my breath. I would let my thoughts kind of still. I would just look out towards the beautiful view. And at that point, one of my friends, or I wouldn't necessarily say a friend, maybe a friend of a friend, someone I only saw once and never saw again, they said, "Hey, have you heard of Vipassana meditation?" And I said, "No." But for some reason, Vipassana meditation stuck in my head for the next 6 months. And 6 months later, I found myself at a 10-day meditation course. And that really became the most impactful experience of my life. And I continued going to Vipassana meditation courses. And these are the free 10-day Vipassana meditation courses taught in the tradition of Goenka. And I kept going to Vipassana courses, and I eventually started volunteering my time at those centers. And it led me down a path of wanting to become a Buddhist monk. So the year leading up to COVID, I was practicing as a Buddhist monk essentially. I didn't ordain officially or anything like that, but I was living a life in line with the principles of a Buddhist monk. And I started living at one of the meditation centers for over the course of about a year. And I spent most of that time in relative isolation. I would leave every so often, go climb perhaps, do other things, see friends, but the majority of that year I did spend in relative isolation, meditating for 7, 8 hours a day. And that was the most life-changing period that I can recall. And it really set the course of my life and inspired me to want to become a Buddhist monk. So, wanting to become a Buddhist monk the year leading up to COVID, I was sort of prepared for what happened, where everybody had to stay inside. And it really gave me a good insight into being with myself and being with my thoughts. And it was a really beautiful experience for me. It's difficult to explain that period of my life because spending so much time in silence and meditation really showed me at the experiential level how much our reality is shaped by our mind. And that's something that hasn't left me till this day, although I'll go through periods where I forget and then I'm reminded a little bit more or less, but it is something I feel like has stuck with me. So during that period of COVID, I wanted to become a Buddhist monk. But all of the monasteries that I was inspired to go to and ordain as a Buddhist monk, they weren't accepting new people, obviously, because they had to remain in quarantine. So no new people could come in. And that gave me the opportunity to reflect for that year on what I really wanted to do and what I was really inspired for in this lifetime. I was considering going to a few different monasteries. There was one up in Northern California, there was another one in Australia, there was another one in the United Kingdom. But eventually I didn't end up ordaining as a Buddhist monk. I actually ended up falling in love and I went down a separate path. And I was also inspired by the book The Diamond Cutter, where there was a monk whose teacher told him, "You should leave the monastery and you should go into the business world. Live your life in the business world, bringing these principles of a Buddhist monk, changing people's lives from the inside out. You don't need to tell anybody that you're a Buddhist monk. You can have normal hair, you can grow your hair out, you can wear normal clothes. Don't tell anybody that you're a Buddhist monk, but live your life with those principles and learn how to bring that into the daily world." And so I was really inspired by that book, The Diamond Cutter, to bring these qualities of the Buddha's teachings into the world. And I started to see no better avenue than the world of financial planning. It lined up so perfectly with Buddhist principles because I feel like at the core of the Buddha's teachings is how can we find peace among change, because everything's changing constantly. And we have to learn to deal with that the most difficult changes to deal with. Things like old age, sickness, and death, which are the cornerstone of the Buddhist teachings, is how do we overcome not being at peace with those things. And it seemed to line up so perfectly with financial planning. We help people plan around old age, so planning for retirement, encouraging people to set their money aside, encouraging people to plan for potential sickness, helping them with their health insurance, helping them with their long-term care planning, helping them for their estate planning, knowing that one day we're going to pass away, and how do we leave our things behind in the most efficient way to create the best possible impact for our loved ones and the causes we believe in and the world. And so the more that time went on, I just felt so aligned with the financial planning industry, being able to work one-on-one with people and sharing those values that had made such a big impact in my life. So nowadays I work in financial planning at Matles Wealth Management, where I help clients, and we manage over $300 million, which is just an amazing honor, and so many people have placed so much trust in us. It's a real blessing and an honor, and I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. I am a certified financial planner, which was a difficult process to go through. And I also got my tax license. I'm an enrolled agent. And so I've been able to have many beautiful insights coming from a world where I've seen people who have nothing in the material sense, but spiritually they seem just so abundant, so radiant. They have everything spiritually, and that radiates from them. They just seem so at peace with themselves. And then on the flip side, I know people that have a net worth of 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars that it's just never enough. And so when you've started to see both sides of the line, you can gain insight into what does it mean to live a truly fulfilling life. And so it doesn't always mean just shunning the things of the world and living like a monk. And it also doesn't mean just money, money, money. How can I put more points on the scoreboard? So it's been an amazing opportunity to work in the financial planning industry. And I have the great honor of working alongside my father, who's been doing this since the year I've been born. And he's taught me so much of what I know, and I'm incredibly grateful for that as well. In terms of my life's biggest passions, I'm reminded of the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. And I've been incredibly inspired by that book because he was also somebody who lived a holy life that lived in and among the world in order to change it. Not just living out in the wilderness or in a monastery somewhere. And I'd also want to say that people that do live in isolation for their whole lives, I do think that they're making a contribution to the world in a way that many people don't understand, even if it's not visible. I think when you hold a pure vibration of peace and love, and you can radiate that out, even if you're not in contact with people, I do believe that makes a difference in the universe, as strange as that may sound. I have so much respect for people that do live in isolation, focusing on the mind, focusing on compassion and radiating purity to the universe. In regards to Yogananda, I'm really inspired by the quote in the book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I'll paraphrase it here. It was said to Yogananda by his teacher, I believe, where he said, "You've been blessed by many lives of lonely meditation. But now it's come to the point where you are meant to live and mingle in the world of men, showing the prime example of what it means to live these principles while also living in the world. Living in the world, but not of the world," like how Jesus said. So what that meant to me and why it really resonated with me is I feel that we've been here for long before this life, and I feel that I've been on this journey for a long time, for many lives before this, and I know not everybody believes that, and that's okay, but that's the truth that I've lived with. I think that consciousness transcends our physical form, and I think I've developed a lot of these qualities over many lives. And although I'm a relatively shy person, private person in practice, I feel like it's come to the point where I'd like to share a lot of these values with the world And one of my ultimate lifetime goals is I would like to eventually start a school someday, not anytime soon, perhaps 30, 40 years down the line. Really inspired by Yogananda's school for boys in Kanchi, India, I believe, where they taught students the things that really led to a fulfilling life. So, keeping the body physically healthy with things like yoga asanas and exercise and how to live in connection with the earth, growing food and eating healthy, and how to just be a good person, living positive values, how to create a business, how to be financially savvy, how to save your money, things like that. So eventually, I'd like to buy a property and build a school inspired by a lot of those values that Yogananda shared with students a long time ago. So that's one of my ultimate lifetime goals. And the other lifetime goal that I have is, well, it's two parts. One is I'd like to help people thrive financially, and I'd like to help them understand what it really means to live a fulfilling life and how money can be a tool for doing so. And so that's why I'd like to interview a lot of other people and get their idea of what it means to live a fulfilling life and what money means to them and what a life of true purpose is like. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to help people thrive in a system that I feel like is very difficult, in a system that honestly I feel like is fundamentally broken. I think we live in a society, in a world that has a financial system that is predatory by nature in a lot of ways. We have a monetary system that, through inflation and currency debasement, operates in a way that I feel like is very unfair. And so I'm an advocate for sound money, for money that cannot be manipulated at will. And so I would like to not only help people thrive in a broken system, but I would like to share ideas that help fundamentally change the system as well. One of those is the idea of Bitcoin, not just as an investment, but as a philosophy, as an idea for how we might be able to create a better world where people are able to save in a more efficient way, where maybe they don't have to use investments as their savings vehicle for the future, but they can save in a scarce resource like they did hundreds or thousands of years ago in gold. Now, I'm not saying that gold is perfect or Bitcoin is perfect or anything like that, but I feel like I've had insights into the way that money works, and I'd like to share those with the world over time. So that's definitely a big passion of mine. Meditation is also a massive passion of mine. It's the cornerstone of my life. I meditate for 2 hours every single day, an hour in the morning and an hour at night. Sometimes I'm a little lazy. I might fall asleep or get tired during the meditation. I might even lie down a bit for the meditation. But I do it to the best of my ability, and it's really become an important part of my life. And that's something else I'd like to share with the world are meditation practices that have brought me a lot of peace, ways of seeing the world that have brought me a lot of peace, breathing practices that have brought me a lot of peace, because those I think are also very inspiring. And from a young age, I've also had a lot of experiences with mind expanding substances. So, just about anything you can imagine, things like DMT, 5-MeO, DMT, things of that nature. And those have also been some of the single most powerful experiences of my life, 5-MeO, DMT specifically. In a way can show you a mountaintop, but I also found that it doesn't integrate anything for you necessarily. I feel like it's important for me to speak on these subjects, even though it might be slightly off brand, because it's also true to myself and it's shaped who I am a lot in a way. My early experiences with mind expanding substances. I've had powerful experiences with these substances, but they were never able to be fully integrated in a profound, long term changing way that I found through meditation and things of a more solid nature. So there's a reason I think that they're called medicines is if you're mentally in a place that it's also aligned with you, they can do a lot of healing. But if you're in a place where you don't necessarily need more healing, you're in a place where it's time to build strength. I think it's more important to walk a solid path where you're able to make long-term changes to your character rather than continue to go back to just touch the mountaintop and come back down. I think those profound experiences can be important for people, but I don't think it's something that should be gone back to repeatedly because I don't see its ability to make positive changes in my life the same way that it would me building a routine and a discipline and living a life of service. But the cornerstone of my life is the idea that true happiness is found through service to others. And when we're able to serve others, we build a deep connection with the understanding that we are all connected in a really true, deep way. One other thing I will touch on briefly is how, in the material sense, the core of what makes the world function is our monetary system. And so most people wake up every day and they go to a job, and it's a core of their life. Most people, if they had more money, they would be living in a different way. And so I see money and finance as really a core of what drives the world. And so I feel like if we can bring compassion and empathy and metta translating to loving kindness into the financial system, I do believe that we can make the world a better place. And so that's also another inspiration for why I've been drawn to finance and the global monetary system. The other thing I will mention that I'm incredibly passionate about is the wealth gap. So there's been an incredible growing wealth gap, and I'm working on a book on this right now called Big Wealth, Big Gap. And the main theme is that throughout history, anytime that we have seen substantial progress technologically, there's also been an expansion in the wealth gap. So when there's a bigger gap between the rich and the poor, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It often means that technology has progressed, but we've gotten to a certain point in modern day society, in my opinion, where it's gone to an extreme level. It's gone to similar levels we've seen for the French Revolution, which obviously, as we know, didn't lead to good outcomes. I'm really passionate about drawing awareness to the implications of the global wealth gap, because if you look back to 1970 and how many billionaires there were adjusted for inflation, and you look how many there are now, the difference is astonishing. So I think that since the 1970s, when the United States got off the gold standard and wealth became much more abstract, when wealth became much more abstract, it became easier to extract from the people that didn't understand it to the people that did. And as it became more abstract, we saw that transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. And it's gotten to the point where I think it's hindered human progress when your average hardworking person is no longer able to afford a home. I think that's a major issue. And as I believe Morgan Housel said, everything is kind of downstream from people's ability not to be able to purchase a home. So people not being able to purchase a home the same way that their grandparents did a few generations ago is definitely a problem that I'm passionate about. I've been writing about that. I've been bringing awareness to that. Again, it's not always a bad thing, but I think it's just gotten to such a level in the modern world that it's important to make sure that people that are working hard, contributing to society, are still able to be sustained. They're putting so much energy into a system that's not giving them the same reward back. They're putting all their life energy into it and they're getting nothing back. And so you have a lot of people checking out of the system. Such as in China, they have that concept called let it rot. I forgot the Chinese translation of that word, but it essentially means let it rot. Like a lot of the young people are just checking out of the system. So I don't want to see young people checking out of like working hard and contributing and being passionate about things. Obviously, if somebody doesn't feel drawn to working, that's totally fine. But the people that do, I'd like for them to feel like they're living in a system that supports them as much as they support the system. So I'm really passionate about that. I am passionate about the history of money. I have a published book called Fast Money, Fast Times. You can check it out on Amazon if that calls to you. I also don't want you to have to pay for it, so it's available on YouTube as a free audiobook if you're interested in that. I'm really appreciative of everybody spending the time watching this. In summary, I was inspired to be a Buddhist monk and eventually felt more driven by a higher power to share those principles with a world that seems like it's in a lot of suffering. And I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to be doing so. And I'm excited and grateful for all the trust that's been placed in me. And I hope to live a life of beauty and purity and understanding and respect and share those values with the world. So I hope that you'll stick with me on this journey while we interview other people on the purpose of life and the meaning of money and how to live in line with true happiness as the teachings of Buddha explained, as the teachings of so many other major religions explained. I'll be trying to share as much as I can on this channel insights that I've learned from. I'd like to help people bring meaning and purpose into their life, into their financial life. I'd also like to share ideas that change the global financial structure as we know it. And I'd like to share ideas and insights into mindfulness and wisdom that I've gained throughout the years through meditation and through living in line with the Buddha's teachings and the teachings of other major religions, trying to be a good person and giving back and living a life of service. So if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you'd like, you can reach out to me. I'll have my contact information down below in the video. But that's it for today. So stick around. There will be more episodes. I have a lot of really fascinating, interesting people lined up for future videos. And we'll be talking about what it means to be happy, the future of finance. And I'll give you a little view of where I'm at today. It's pretty awesome. So really just can't complain. We've got so much beauty in this world to be grateful for. And I am sending my best to everyone out there. And I'm kind of freezing my butt off, so I think I'm going to climb the rest of this mountain and get on down back home. Peace and love, everyone.